So for those of you that have been keeping up the news in the hip hop world recently, you know that rising hip hop star and face of the emo wave of SoundCloud rap that's been coming out of the scene recently, Lil Peep, overdose on his tour bus a few days ago. We still actually don't have a very clear picture of what happened, but it seems like what happened was that it was fentanyl powder that was pressed in a pill press to look like a Xanax bar, and that's what he was given. And it only takes a small amount of fentanyl to kill somebody. So I guess he took the bar, and his friends thought he was just asleep. It turned out he was dead, and that there was about an hour-long period where if the paramedics had been called, he could have been saved, but it happened too late. And recently, People magazine talked to his brother Oscar about Lil Peep and whether or not this kind of drug dependence was a cry for help, or whether this was a suicide, or what really happened. And then we kind of got some more insight into Lil Peep as a person. And Oscar actually kind of inadvertently, he's talking very positively about his brother, but he kind of inadvertently exposed him a little bit for his faking his image. We kind of were given the idea from Lil Peep's music that he takes drugs to escape his depression and to escape the pain of his everyday existence. And Oscar said that him and his brother definitely went through their fair share of struggles growing up with their father, who he describes as a selfish man. But he says that a lot of the sadness that Peep talks about and raps about was like part of like he put it on as part of a job and as part of his image as a rapper. And Oscar says it makes me laugh to think about the days we watched WWE together. But Pete mentioned how being a hip hop artist is like being a pro wrestling character. You have to be an actor. He gets paid to be sad. It's what he made his name on. It's what his image was in a sense. He was so proud when he heard that there were people in the world who wanted to kill themselves, and then they didn't because they listened to his music. He was helping people. He was not somebody who needed help. He was not as sad as people think he was. It's frustrating as someone who remembers a happy brother. And you see all these posts on social media and Twitter, and people taking this opportunity to kind of get on a soapbox and talk about drug addiction and depression, and saying things like, if you know somebody who's struggling, make sure you talk to them. And like, this is why we need to have more open conversations about drug use, especially Xanax use in the hip hop scene and things like that. But it really, this all seems to be able to be boiled down to an accident. It was a fan of his that provided him with the pills, and she's currently in police custody, according to Twitter. I don't know if she knew that the pills were laced with fentanyl, but from what Oscar says, I think it clears up a lot of what people were kind of already suspecting, that this wasn't something he did advertently, and this wasn't a purposeful attempt on his, well, I guess not attempt, it was a successful attempt on his own life. And I think now we can kind of close the case on this Lil Peep thing, that it really was a fan that gave him some bad pills, and it wasn't him doing anything to himself. But it also opens an interesting question about how accurate what he's saying is. And I think I read something similar in a Fader article not too long ago with him, where he talks about the parallels between the WWE character and a rapper, and how they have to maintain their image, and it's a large part of what makes them pop off. And I think his whole image with his face tats and the kind of depressed emo wave and like his whole look was what really, and his aesthetic is what really boosted his music to the next level and kind of gained him this cult Twitter fan base. And I think he's pretty accurate in saying that rappers kind of have to keep up an image. And honestly, I think that type of image of popping these pills and drinking and all these things that he was doing was what ultimately led to his death, as opposed to depression or other things or other forms of mental illness that people are discussing online. This has been Local Savage News, signing off.
That's what I thought you said. Now let me offer this as a rebuttal.